Hello boys and girls, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. So today and over the next several days we're going to be having a reptile unit where we learn about different kinds of reptiles. And actually, if you didn't know, I love reptiles. They're one of my favorite kinds of animals. So I actually have quite a few at my house of different kinds of reptiles that I'm going to be showing to you and teaching you about them as a part of our reptile unit. So today we're going to be talking about ball pythons. Ball pythons are a type of snake. I actually have 3 ball pythons of my own at my house, one of which is our class pet at school, so you may have seen him at school, especially if you're in my class. So today I'm going to show you all 3 of the ball pythons that I have. Now I'm going to be holding one. Well, I'm already holding her, but I'm going to be holding one pretty much the whole time that I tell you about ball pythons, and I picked kind of my smallest that's easiest to hold and be able to show you on the camera for this. So that's why I'm holding her first. Alright, so this is a ball python. This ball python is a girl. She's a baby, so she's not full grown, and her name is Santana. So she's one of the 3. So I'll be hanging on to her. She's pretty small, as you can see, so she's easy to hold here while we talk about ball pythons. So let's talk about where ball pythons are from in the wild. So you can't find ball pythons here in Chicago or even in the United States. Some snakes you can find even in Chicago, but not ball pythons. Ball pythons are from a whole different continent called Africa. So that's where you find ball pythons in the wild, is in Africa. Now, what do they like to eat? Ball pythons, some snakes like to eat like lizards, eggs, even fish or bugs, but not ball pythons. They like to eat rodents like mice and rats. Not something we'd like to eat, but it's delicious for them. Now let's talk about what kind of environment ball pythons like to have. If you know anything about Africa, where they're from, it's pretty hot there. So ball pythons like an environment that is hot, like Africa. They like it around 90 degrees. So if you were to ever have a ball python as a pet, you need to keep their heat high at 90 degrees so that they are safe and don't get too cold. It's also important that they don't get too hot as well. They also like having humidity around 60 to 70%. Humidity is how much moisture is in the air, how much water is in the air. So if you think of like a really muggy, humid day, that would have high humidity. So 60 to 70% is kind of high humidity, but not super, super high. So they like a little bit of like hot and muggy, but not too wet in their environment. And lastly, they like places that are dark and small spaces. And let me tell you the reason for that. So in Africa, ball pythons typically live inside of termite mounds. Termite mounds, they kind of look like a bump in the sand, and that's where these bugs called termites live. It's kind of like if you think of like what a little anthill looks like, except bigger and in the sand, and that's what termite mounds are. So ball pythons like to make a little hole and get inside those termite mounds, and that's where they like to live. Now they like it in there because it's kind of dark and small and enclosed, and it makes them feel safe and hidden in there. Now you may know that snakes are predators because they eat other animals. So ball pythons eat mice and rats. But snakes also have predators that like to eat them. So they're prey for other kinds of animals. And one main predator of snakes is different kinds of birds, like big birds, like hawks and things like that. In Africa, they have hawks and they have other birds that like to come and eat things like snakes. So they don't like to be out in the day, and they don't like to be seen. They like to stay hidden in a dark place so that they feel safe. So ball pythons like to live in those small dark termite mounds, and they only typically come out at night. Ball pythons are nocturnal, so they sleep during the day and they're awake at night, unlike us. When they're in their termite mounds, they actually don't really go out and hunt their mice and rats. They kind of wait until mice or other rodents come inside their termite mound, and that's when they eat. They're kind of lazy snakes. They don't have that much energy. If you notice, Santana's just kind of chilling on my hand. She's not too interested in moving around a lot, so they're not very energetic snakes. Now let's talk about some fun facts about ball pythons. So one cool fact is why they're called ball pythons. And the reason for that is because when they get kind of nervous or scared, instead of trying to bite or run away, what they'll actually do is they'll kind of hide and make themselves into a little ball. That's why they're called ball pythons. Now I don't know if she'll do it for us because Santana's not really scared of me. She's used to me since I'm her owner. But I'm going to try to scare her a little bit by touching her head because snakes don't really like when you touch their head. And we'll see if she curls into a ball for us. There we go. Ah, she's wrapped around my fingers. There we go. All right, so as you see, she kind of went into, she's still peeking out because like I said, she's not scared of me. But she kind of went into a little ball when I did that, you see? And then she's coming back out now. All right, so that's why they're called ball pythons, because they curl up into a ball when they get scared or nervous. Another cool fact about ball pythons is they come in all different kinds of colors. Not colors that animals don't normally come in, like pink and purple, of course. But they can come in yellow and black and white and brown and almost kind of even reddish. So they come in lots of different like animal type of colors. You can even find ball pythons that are solid white with blue eyes. They're really cool because you can find them in almost any color that you would want, that an animal comes in, of course. So I'm going to show you, I actually don't have any ball pythons that look like they would in the wild. They call those normal ball pythons. They have different names for all the different colors and patterns that they come in. So if you look at Santana here, I'm going to tell you her color morph. That's what they call the type of color and pattern. So you see this stripe down her back, that's called the pinstripe. And then her coloring is called cinnamon. So her color morph is called cinnamon pinstripe. Now, it works like snakes, kind of like it works for people. So depending on what the parents of the snakes look like and what kind of genes go into their DNA is what the babies will look like. Kind of like with people, that if your parents have blue eyes, you'd probably have blue eyes. And if your parents have black hair, you're probably not going to come out with blonde or red hair. You're probably going to look mostly like your parents and have kind of the same colors of hair and skin and eyes as them, if that makes sense. So it's kind of the same for snakes. You can kind of pair different snakes that look different, and you can make all different kinds of colors and patterns that they call color morphs. So Santana is called cinnamon pinstripe, like I said. I'll show you when I pull out the other two ball pythons what their color morphs are, because they don't look like Santana, so that's pretty interesting. Another fact I told you is that ball pythons are kind of lazy snakes. They don't like to move around a ton. Other species of snake are a lot faster. I've told you that Santana's a baby. You might wonder, well, how big do ball pythons get? Different species of snakes get to be all different sizes. There's some snakes that stay really tiny, almost like a worm. And there's other species of snake that get really, really big, like longer than a school bus. Santana is a ball python, and ball pythons typically get around 4 or 5 feet long. That's probably about in between how tall you are and how tall I am. I'm on the shorter side, so I'm about 5 feet 4 inches tall. So she might be as tall as me someday. That might seem really long for a snake, but keep in mind that they curl up a lot like this. She's never really laying straight out, so it doesn't actually seem that big. And she'll probably get around this big around someday, like kind of like as big around as a baseball or a softball. So she'll be kind of bigger, but not a really huge snake. I'll always be able to handle her safely by myself. Some snakes get so big and so heavy that you need another person to help you like carry them and pick them up and things like that. So those are kind of some cool facts about ball pythons. So now that you've seen Santana, I'm gonna go pull out the others so that you can see them as well. All right, here is my next ball python. This is Wilson. Now, you probably can tell that he looks a lot different than Santana. He is yellow, and you probably can't see on the video just because I don't know if it'll focus well, but he actually has blue eyes, so that's one of my favorite things about him. His color morph is kind of a mouthful to say. The colors and patterns that go together, the genes that make up what he looks like, is called lemon and cheese champagne. So that's something cool about him. I really like how he looks. He's my favorite ball python of how he looks. Now, you wouldn't find a ball python like this in the wild. There's people that breed ball pythons actually to make them look in all different colors and patterns. Kind of like how dog breeders breed puppies. People do the same with snakes, which people who are scared of snakes might think that's weird or interesting, but there's lots of people who breed snakes. So I actually got Wilson from a snake breeder who breeds ball pythons. Something I forgot to mention before that people always ask me is, are your snakes poisonous? And the answer is no. Poisonous actually means that if you were to eat something, it would be poison to you. So snakes aren't actually poisonous because you could eat a snake, although that'd be kind of weird, so I don't suggest that. But snakes don't have poison, they have venom. So they have venom in their teeth so that then when they bite into their prey, it will kill their prey. But ball pythons are not venomous snakes. So they don't have fangs that can bite into prey to, poison them. What they do instead is they are a type of constrictor. That means that they'll wrap around their prey and squeeze it really tight to kill it, I guess, to eat it. Which sounds mean or sad, I guess, but it's a part of the circle of life. It's just like if you were to watch some like Animal Channel and see a lion chase after a zebra. It seems sad for the zebra, but that's the lion's food, so that's just a part of the circle of life. So it's the same for snakes. They eat like mice or rats, so they kind of squeeze them so that they are able to eat them. So that is what they do. But they are not venomous or poisonous. They don't have any sort of poison in their teeth. They just squeeze. Now, people also ask me if my snakes bite. And I have told people snakes have mouths so they can bite, just like I have a mouth and I could bite someone. But I will say that snakes are usually unlikely to bite. I have never been bitten by any of my ball pythons. I'm always very gentle with them when I pull them out. I usually make sure that I'm not grabbing by their face when I pull them out so that they know that I'm not food. A snake is more likely to bite you because it thinks that you're food than it is because it's trying to be vicious. Snakes get scared really easily. They're used to their predators coming from above them like a bird to try to get them, which is why when you pick up a snake, it's good to scoop up from underneath them, so then you won't have a problem picking them up. A lot of people I know are scared of snakes, and that always makes me kind of sad because I love them so much. So that's one reason that I like to tell people about reptiles like you guys, because I want to show that they're actually really gentle animals, and they actually make pretty good pets because they're pretty easy to take care of. They only eat about once a week, and that also means that they only poop about once a week, which sounds kind of weird or gross, but unlike a dog that you'd have to take out several times a day, or a cat that you'd have to clean their litter box every day or every other day, snakes usually only go to the bathroom like once a week, so you don't have to clean their enclosure very often. You just have to make sure that they have heat and the right humidity or moisture in their enclosure. You have to make sure that they have places to hide so that they feel safe. Maybe some things like plants or vines to climb on, which you can use fake plants that you could get at like a pet store. And you also want to make sure that they have some kind of like bedding in there, which I use a kind of like coconut chips for my snakes. Sounds weird, but they make that at the pet store. It's kind of like wood chips. And that's what they like to kind of like bury in and lay on. It's kind of like wood chips in the wild, I suppose. And of course, you want to make sure that they have water all the time. So they're pretty easy animals to take care of. And you've seen the two ball pythons so far, Santana and Wilson. Neither one have tried to bite. They're more likely, if I put my hand, they'll just try to get away from my hand. So yeah, so now that you've seen Santana and Wilson, my two baby ball pythons, I'm gonna pull out the big one, which I know if you're in my class, you guys are excited for because you've seen Arlo, he's our class pet, so I'm gonna go grab him real quick. All right, here is the one you've been waiting for. This is Arlo. So if you're in my class, you know him. He's our class pet. And Arlo, he misses you guys. He wishes that we were back in school instead of being here at my house, I'm sure. So this is what a full-grown ball python looks like. When he's curled up, kind of like this, he doesn't look quite as big. But if I were to stretch him out like this, we can't even get his whole body on video. So he's probably as tall as a lot of you. Yeah, so Arlo misses you guys. He sounds a little sniffly right now because he was just hanging out in some water. But, yeah. Hey, dude. Did you breathe in a little bit of water? So this is Arlo. He's super nice. He's like the gentle giant. Not that the babies aren't nice, but he's super extra nice. So, yeah, here he is. Arlo's color morph that we were talking about earlier is called brass ball. And brass ball is made up of two genes. One is vanilla, and one is black pastel, is what it's called. So that's what makes up his pattern. What's cool about him, let me find one, he kind of has some hearts like this right here on his pattern. So that's pretty nice. Now I didn't have Arlo out the whole time to tell you about ball pythons because he's big and he likes to move a little bit more than the babies. So I'd be struggling trying to keep up with him all the time. It was a little easier to hold the babies than to hold him to tell you about this on camera. But I hope you enjoyed learning about ball pythons. What you're going to do now is you're going to fill out your worksheet about ball pythons and write down some of the things that we learned about today, like where ball pythons are from, naturally in the wild, what they eat, what kind of environment they like, and other fun facts that you learned about them. Now, you probably just saw Arlo came right up to my face. I'm not worried at all that he would bite me. You know why? I don't smell like a rat. So he has absolutely no reason to try to bite me, and he never has tried to bite me. Oh, one more thing about Arlo. He's about 5 years old, maybe 6 years old. I haven't had him his whole life. I got him from a breeder. They were already breeding him, so he has babies out there in the world somewhere, and then they just decided not to breed him anymore, and he came to live with me and to come be our class pets. It's a bummer that we're not in school right now. But I hope you enjoyed learning about ball pythons. Have fun filling out your ball python worksheet, and I'll see you tomorrow with another kind of animal, a new reptile. Bye-bye. Say bye, Arlo.